Hi, this is Steph with Belladonna Dyes, and today we're going to icedye a scrub top that I got from Dharma Trading Company, and I will put a link for it down below in the description box. For this project, it's going to be a tessellation fold, and when it comes to tie-dye, I had never considered using that word, but in the Facebook groups, I've been seeing it thrown around a lot, and essentially all this is a pleat fold or an accordion fold, and then I'm going to tie it with some sinew. So I want to start by folding the shirt directly in half, and I'm using my yardstick to make a nice crisp center line. And then I'm just going to, like I said, accordion fold back and forth. And I don't want the pleats to be too big, so ultimately I'm going to make them 2 inches in width. You're setting the foundation for your entire project, so check your pleat to make sure it's the same all the way across. And that pesky little bug, I didn't want to hurt it, but I do think I ended up giving him serious damage. Now I'm just going to pleat back and forth until I have this side all the way folded up. Now that the first side is done, I'm going to carefully flip it over and repeat the process on the opposite side. So like I mentioned, I've seen this pattern floating all over Facebook lately, and it's really beautiful. And it reminded me that a long time ago when I first started tie-dyeing, I saw a YouTube on this particular pattern. So I went and found it in my watch list, and I will put a link for the tutorial down in the description box. The channel name is Kay Bainham. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. She only has like 3 videos, but it's a great tutorial. So after you watch this one, go ahead and check hers out. Now that it's all pleated up, I'm using my yardstick and a washable marker to mark out my pattern, and I'm making my marks every 3 inches. Now that it's all pleated up, I want to make sure it stays secure, so I'm going to clip it. And I got these clips at Fred Meyer's in the area where you would get laundry stuff like hampers and hangers and stuff like that. You could also use binder clips, clothespins. I think any clip would work. In Kay's tutorial, she folds the fabric in half. I think that's so it's easier to tie up with the sinew, and that makes sense to me, so I'm going to try that method as well. So basically I'm just taking the whole length of all of these pleats and folding them into a taco shape. All right, everybody, here's the test. Let's see if the Sinew Puller is going to do its job, and I can tell you that it does. However, I'm very unhappy with the sinew. I got this stuff off of Amazon, and I do have a link for it down below in the description box, and it's sinew, and it works. I prefer the Dharma sinew. It's very, very sticky, and it catches on itself really well, and I like it so much better. This particular sinew, it feels dry and old. Now, I don't think that it's dry and old. I just think it's made differently. So that's my personal preference. And honestly, I think the Dharma sinew is about the same price, maybe cheaper. The only downside is Dharma's shipping is so extremely expensive. So, it's like half a dozen one, six of another. When wrapping your sinew, 3 seems to be the magic number. So you wrap it around 3 times and then pull it tight and then check it. I like to look at the back to make sure that it's all lined up. And that's another thing. With Dharma, their sinew catches on itself when you pull it really tight and it lines itself up nicely. This didn't do that. And so I found myself checking the back and having to rewrap it a lot more than I'd like to. All right, 2 wrapped, more to go. So I check down in the pleats and I find my mark, and then I'm going to wrap it with the sinew. And as I cross over from one sinew line to the next, I leave a little bit of slack. I don't want to create a vertical line going across the project. So I leave a little bit of slack, I wrap it around 3 times, and then I pull it tight. And I'm going to do that same process all the way down to the end. If you want, you could go super duper random. You don't have to mark out your pattern. You can, go 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, whatever you want to do. But if you want to make it exactly how I'm making it, then, you want to follow these steps. So you've watched me tie up 3 of these, so now I'm going to crank up the speed. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. The Sinew Puller is wonderful. I love it. And the fact that it just wound up so easily is just the ultimate bonus. I have been getting some questions about what the Sinew Puller is made out of, and to be totally honest with you, I have absolutely no idea. I didn't make the Sinew Puller, I bought the Sinew Puller. So if you have questions specifically about how it's made, what it's made with, you're going to get the best answer from Jen. Her and her husband are the one that make it. So again, her Facebook page is Boredom with Jen, and her Etsy is Boredom with Jen Shop. And her Etsy link for this puller is down below in the description box, along with everything else that I use for tie-dye. As I'm watching this back during the editing process, I'm noticing that my last few slack lines aren't as loose as they were in the beginning. And I don't know why that is exactly. I can speculate that is probably because I'm getting tired. I'm sick of using this sinew and I've been standing for the whole process and I've just become sloppy. That's just a lot of loose fabric down there, so I decided to add an extra sinew line to each end. Check out what's about to happen. Yep, the sinew slips. And when I'm using the Dharma sinew, that rarely ever happens to me. I even crossed this over on itself and wrapped it around 3 times and everything. So I'm kind of surprised that happened. You have to be careful. We're pulling so hard on the sinew that when it breaks loose like that, you can punch yourself in the gut, give yourself a black eye, bloody your lip. It can be hazardous to our health. That's another good thing about having a sinew puller. It does help you pull it really, really, really tight, and that's definitely what you want when you're making projects like this. Yay, finally I'm done tying it. So the next step is to decide how are you going to dye it. And I've already established for this one that it's going to be an ice dye. So you need to figure out what container you're going to use. Are you going to muck dye it, rack dye it, whatever. And I left this part in just so you could sort of see my process, testing out different containers before I finally settle on what colors of dye I'm going to use, what container I'm going to use, and all of that. After laborious deliberation, this is what I settled on, and I'm going to do 3 colors. Well, I got over to start picking out my dye colors, and I changed my mind. I want to do more than just 3 colors. So as I'm getting prepared to record, I decided that I'm going to do a muck dye instead. And not only do I change my mind about what kind of container I want to use, I will also change my mind about what dye colors I want to use. Originally, I was going to use peach, but when I saw the coral pink, I decided I wanted to use that instead. And I really don't want to muck dye this. I really want to use the over-the-sink strainer. I better hurry up and get some ice and dye on this thing before I change my mind again. So for this one, I'm going to be doing the dye over ice method. So you want to put enough ice on your project to where you're not seeing fabric showing through. And I'm using my large ice. The Pribcho ice machine. I did an unboxing on it maybe 2 months ago. I really like the machine a lot. I don't use it all the time because I had a whole bunch of store-bought ice in my freezer, and I've been making sweatshirts lately, so I've ran through all of that. So I'm really excited to start making ice because I love playing with the ice machines. Now it's time for the fun part. We get to add the dye, and this really truly is my favorite part of the entire process. I love to see the dye come to life when it hits the ice, and it's such a trip. Like tangerine, the dye powder looked green, and then it hits the ice and it turns this beautiful red orange color, and the deep yellow, the dye powder looks red. Yeah, it's a trip. So always make sure that you're checking your lids and the label on the dye jar. I've said this before, but many times I've accidentally mixed up the lid and the label, and it can be rather disastrous. Once you get your dye on, give your project a quick little sprinkle of soda ash for good measure. And now this is some time lapse of the ice melting over about a 13-hour period. I did come in and add a second layer of ice, and I do add a little more of the coral pink. It's now the morning of the next day, and I'm flipping it over and I'm checking the back, and there's a little bit of saturation issue in the yellow, and I kind of want more of the orange tones. So I'm sort of going to repeat the process. I'm not going to add as much dye. And some of you are probably noticing that I've switched over to the nugget ice, and there is really no reason other than the simple one. When I started the project, my nugget ice machine was empty, and I didn't want to wait. And I will use the nugget ice first every opportunity that I can. I just really love the nugget ice. Look at the muck water. It's vibrating. It looks as if it's going to the beat of the music, and it's not. It's just syncing up, and I think that's a total trip. Now give your project a quick little sprinkle of soda ash for good measure, and let it batch for 48 hours after the ice melts. It's been just a little bit over 48 hours. It's closer to maybe like 55 hours. So now it's time for the rinse out, and you want to start by using cold water, and that's going to rinse away any soda ash that might still be reacting within the fibers, and then increase your water up to hot and rinse until the water runs pretty much clear. From here, I take the project to the washing machine, and I will do however many hot water cycles it takes using Kirillon. And what I do is I take a clear plastic cup and I scoop up the water in the hot water part of the cycle, and I check it. And once that water is basically clear, I know that I'm ready for my final hot water cycle using Millsoft. And Millsoft is a professional fabric softener that I get from Dharma, and I get both Kirillon and Millsoft from Dharma, and I do have links for them down below in the description box, along with everything else that I use for tie-dye, so it makes it really easy for you guys to find supplies. And then I throw it in the dryer, and I'll iron it, and we'll come back and we'll see the results. Isn't that orange so pretty? In fact, I don't think I ever use orange unless I'm making a rainbow. I need to make more orange things. I just forget about it because it's really not one of my favorite colors. In fact, I don't actually like the color orange for myself at all. But when I see it like this, I think it's absolutely stunning. And then I check the tag because now that it's wet and dyed, it's starting to feel like a wet bed sheet. And I know rayon does that, but I know this shirt isn't rayon. It's just 100% cotton poplin. Well, here it is, guys. Here's our scrub top after it's been washed and dried, and I think it turned out amazing. I really do need to make orange things more often. I should set a rule for myself. For every 4 purple things I make, I just have to make something orange, or else I'm just never going to do it. All right, so the one complaint that I do have about this scrub top is the fabric that it's sewn with. It wrinkles really, really, really bad. And for those of you that wear scrubs, you know that we need to be able to pull them out of the dryer, give them a snap, hang them on the hanger, and they're good to go. I don't have time to iron my scrub tops, and many of you are probably like that. Now, if you don't mind ironing, then this is going to be completely fine. But when I pulled it out of the dryer, it was so wrinkled that when I was ironing it, the wrinkles weren't even coming out. I had to get it damp and iron it that way. I don't have time for all that. So overall, I think the pattern is beautiful, the color is beautiful, and it's a super duper cute top. And like I said, if you don't mind ironing, then this one's the one for you. So what do you guys think? Please leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a thumbs up, and click the bell and set it to all. That way you get notified of future uploads. And remember, have fun tie-dyeing.